Good morning, grandkids. Today is time for another chapter of Dorkly and finding out what's going on in the far kingdom. This is chapter 27. The king and the wizard sat staring at one another, sipping their drinks, both getting a little buzz on. "Well," said the king, "today has certainly been a day of weirdness." They both were feeling their drinks, but there was still much to be done. "Dorkly, I don't want you to drink anymore. I'm sorry, I can't even read the word I wrote. I'm going to need you awake and helpful to me." Dorkly was still staring at his king. "I need you to go sit with Gorman until I join you both. Don't drink, don't say anything for now about the book. When I join you, we will see what's to be done. Now, go on." As Dorkly left for his father's spire, the king called after him, "Dorkly," after Dorkly, saying, "and make sure physicians are still tending him." He was worried now Gorman would react to what they had to discuss with him and what little help he would withstand it. Connolly left the palace, gathered some guards, and they set off for the docks. But unknown to the king, much had gone on after he had left the docks earlier and returned to the palace. The guards were spread out along the dock and across the road, blocking the way going toward the coastal towns. Other guards had been sent beyond the road in case the man had escaped their net and Dermis's sword. General Bannister heard hoofs storming down toward the docks, and he raised his sword, causing a line of guards to draw their own swords. There would be nowhere for anyone to escape. But Dermis was who came galloping onto the docks, turning his horse round about and calling out, "Where is he? Where is he hiding?" He cantered up to General Bannister, his horse tail flying, its hoofs stamping, breathing heavily. "Has he come this way, General?" "No, Prince Dermis. I was thinking of sending some of the guards searching among the buildings around this area of the bay and see what we might flush out." General Bannister grinned. "Sorry about that." "Do it," Dermis said, as he sauntered around among the few shacks and stacked cargo, searching. At the far end of the dock sat a ship, which had been ready to leave port, but had been detained by the guards. I lost my place. When the guards had left it, a man dragging a stumbling woman came out of hiding to head for the ship. Someone shouted, and the nearest guards turned, then called out for Prince Dermis. He came charging down the docks and, without thinking or caring, raised his bow and started firing, his eyes blazing. The first arrow hit Mandy in the chest, and she fell. Falling down onto the docks, her eyes staring out at nothing. The second arrow hit the man in his thigh, dropping him to one knee. Dermis rode up to him, jumping from his horse. He toed Mandy with his foot and could tell that she was dead. He looked at the man who was looking up at him with a smirk on his face. Dermis pulled his sword, thrusting it through the man's throat, and he fell onto the ground as his and Mandy's blood pooled together, spreading out across the cobblestones of the dock. Dermis dropped his sword on the ground. He hung his head, looking down at Mandy, his eyes going harder and colder. Faintly behind him was the sounds of the guards being called back in around General Bonester, the sound of hoofbeats coming down from the palace. The king rode up to Dermis and spoke. "What have you done, my son?" He shook his head as he looked at the two dead bodies and at Dermis's bloody sword. Dermis was unaware as he turned and started to walk away, his weapons lying on the ground, his hands bloody, looking dazed. The king looked at the general and said, "Take him," in a low, sad voice. Bonester walked after Dermis, catching up and taking him by the arm. He helped him onto his horse, tying his hands together, and told some of the guards to take him to jail. He then told the rest of the guards, "Clean up this mess," and putting some of the dock dwellers to work. Cart both bodies off to the potter's field and see to having them buried. He looked around and saw that the king had left, so he called the rest of his men to him, and they headed to the nearest tavern that they could find on the docks. Conley walked into the palace, going to the side room and a bottle of Black Swan, and then headed for Wizard Gorman's quarters. He had been to see him most every day, and he was worse and more frail each time. He nodded at the two guards by the door as they opened it for him. He entered, and noting that the lights were low and Gorman seemed to be sleeping, he looked over at a table where Dorkly sat with a bottle of mead. He went over and sat down, tapping Dorkly on the arm with his bottle of Black Swan. "Here, I want something better than that," he said quietly, and poured some for Dorkly. He then ushered the physician out, which was hovering nearby. "I will call for you later," he said. "May the gods bless you, my king," Dorkly murmured as he held up the drink. "How's your dad doing?" "Just keeps getting worse, I'm afraid. He was awake for a while since I came." "And no, I haven't mentioned anything," Dorkly said. The king said, "I want to make you aware of a few things before we talk to Gorman. Then I'll be sending you off to bed as soon as possible." Dorkly straightened up and set down his glass, looking at the king seriously. "What's going on? Did something more happen after the first wedding?" "Quite a bit," the king said. "Quite a bit." They heard a groan from the bed, but finally settling down again, the king dropped his voice low, quieter as he went on. "Dermis finally took out after the man and Mandy, after everyone became unfrozen at the wedding. I sent the guards out to stop any boats or any killing. But the guards and Dermis were there when the couple, who had been hiding, showed up and got captured. Dermis put an arrow through the girl and sort of slowly killed the man with his sword. I showed up at that time and saw the whole thing. I had the guards take him to prison for now. He was totally out of it, like he had no idea where he was, or just didn't care. And the king shook his head. Wow, I'll bet this is going to cause a stir among the people. Did you leave all of them in the court? Dorkly asked. No, as soon as everyone came out of their shock, they started hurrying out the doors, which the guards hurriedly opened. I sent the bride and groom on their way home and kissed my lady goodbye and sent her home. I have my loved ones with security to guard them. Who knows what might happen? Just being careful for a while. They heard more groaning and heard Gorman saying something. They both jumped up and went over to his bed. Who's here? Gorman whispered. Ah, my king, he said, as Conley and Dorkly reached his bed. And my son, to what do I owe such a visit as the two of you together? We have questions to ask of you about a book which came into his hands, the king said as he motioned toward Dorkly. They had already decided not to tell Gorman about any of the other troubles going on in the kingdom unless it pertained to the book. Well, Gorman said, I will try my best to stay attentive. Could I have a glass of water, please? It's there by the bed. Dorkly got it for him and held the glass for him as he drank. He then raised him up a bit as Connolly placed another pillow behind his back. They dragged their chairs over by the bed and sat down. Well, said Gorman, tell me what this is about. If I drop off from time to time, please stay. What about this book? Dorkly said, a book I have sort of called to me. Upon picking it up, it fell open and a beam of light shot upward out of it. Gorman's eyes opened wider, and the rest of the color drained from his face. The Book of Blood, gods, he said. So, we come to the point about this book where we find out that Gorman also knows about the Book of Blood. So, we will wait until next week and find out more, maybe, about what Gorman knows. So, goodbye, grandkids, for now. See you next week.